I never imagined my life would lead me here. But when Mr. Abernathy's heavy knock echoed through my small apartment in Cedar Creek, I knew my time was up. 3 months I was behind on the rent, utterly broke, with no one to turn to, and then he presented his offer, an offer that coiled in my gut, telling me I should refuse. But I didn't. I flinched as the sound rattled the door. My old cardigan was wrapped tight around me, but I felt exposed. Exhaustion was a heavy cloak. I opened the door a crack. Mr. Abernathy stood there, his eyes sharp and assessing, taking me in, slowly, deliberately. "You're 3 months late, Clara," he stated, his voice low, without preamble. I pulled the cardigan tighter. "I know, Mr. Abernathy. I just need more time." He pushed the door open and stepped inside, the air around him thick with unspoken intent. His gaze lingered, cold and calculating. "It's a shame," he murmured, his voice smooth, almost sympathetic. "To see a capable woman like you struggling so." My skin felt tight, a blush of shame, or maybe something else warming it. "I'll figure something out," I whispered, though I had no idea how. He sighed, shaking his head slowly. "Time doesn't pay bills, Clara." I had tried everything, extra shifts at the diner, selling what little I had of value, borrowing from hesitant acquaintances. Nothing made a dent in the mounting debt. "Please," I pleaded, my voice barely audible. "Just a little longer." He studied me, that sharp gaze piercing. "Perhaps," he said, tilting his head. "There's another way." My stomach clenched. There it was, the unspoken offer, now hovering in the air between us. What do you mean? Come now, Clara. You're intelligent. You know what I mean." The small room seemed to shrink. My thin cardigan felt like nothing. "No one needs to know," he added, stepping closer. "Just our arrangement." I hesitated, my heart hammering against my ribs. He allowed himself a thin smile, watching my discomfort. "I can make your problems disappear." I exhaled shakily. No options left, no way out, just him and whatever he had in mind. Slowly, reluctantly, I nodded. His smile didn't deepen, but something flickered in his eyes. "Good. Come into the sitting room. We need to discuss the terms." Mr. Abernathy led me not to the bedroom, but to my small, worn sitting room. His demeanour was businesslike, his movements precise. The air felt heavy, not with intimacy, but with the weight of the decision I had just made. He sat on the edge of my threadbare sofa, gesturing for me to take the armchair opposite. The scent of his expensive cologne filled the small space. He wasted no time. "This isn't about rent in the traditional sense anymore, Clara," he began, his voice matter-of-fact. "You have skills, presence. You can be useful." He clasped his hands together. "I require a companion for certain events, appearances. Someone who can listen, perhaps offer an opinion when prompted. Someone who presents well." A lump formed in my throat. This wasn't what I had expected, and yet it felt equally daunting, equally demeaning in its own way. I hesitated, my fingers tightening into fists hidden in my lap. His lips curved slightly. "Don't look so surprised, Clara. You agreed, remember? This is the another way." A strange heat, a nervous tension coiled in my stomach. I swallowed hard. What kind of events?" "Social gatherings," he stated. "Business dinners. Sometimes simply accompanying me to a show or a meeting where a solitary figure is disadvantageous." He leaned forward slightly. "You will dress appropriately. You will conduct yourself with decorum. You will be attentive to my needs during these times. In return, your rent is forgotten, and a generous allowance will be provided for your services." He named a figure that made my eyes widen. It was more than I could earn in months at the diner. "Consider it payment for your time and presence." He was laying out the terms, clear and cold. It was a transaction, just not the one I had initially feared, yet perhaps just as complicated. "And how often?" I managed to ask. "When needed. Sometimes once a week, sometimes more. It will vary." He watched me carefully. There was no warmth in his eyes, only calculation. I shouldn't have considered it, but the number he mentioned, the promise of stability, it was intoxicating. "All right," I said, the word feeling foreign on my tongue. I'll do it." His expression didn't change, but there was a subtle shift in his posture, a relaxation of tension. "Good," he said. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a thick wad of cash. "An advance." For a suitable wardrobe, I expect you to look the part. He placed it on the small coffee table between us. My hand trembled as I reached for it. I'll call you with the details of our first engagement. Our first engagement was a formal dinner at a grand house outside of Cedar Creek. Mr. Abernathy had sent a driver to pick me up. I wore a dress. He had selected elegant, understated, expensive. The shoes were new, the handbag unfamiliar in my hand. I felt like an imposter. Mr. Abernathy introduced me simply as Ms. Peterson, my associate. The evening was a blur of polite conversation, expensive food, and the constant low hum of people subtly assessing each other. My role was clear: sit beside him, smile when appropriate, listen intently, and occasionally offer a brief, agreeable comment if directly addressed. His hand would sometimes rest lightly on my arm or back, a silent reminder of our arrangement. It felt like acting, a performance I had to maintain perfectly. The suspense wasn't in physical danger, but in the constant tension of maintaining the facade, of wondering who knew or suspected the truth of my relationship with Mr. Abernathy. His gaze would find mine across the table sometimes, a silent question or instruction passing between us. He seemed to gauge my performance, my ability to fit into this new world. And strangely, as the evening went on, I found myself not just going through the motions, but becoming more adept at it. I observed others, learned the rhythm of their conversations, how to blend in, how to appear sophisticated. There was a strange sort of power in this performance, a control I hadn't anticipated. I wasn't the desperate tenant. I was Ms. Peterson, the capable associate. It was a fragile identity, built on a lie, but in wearing it, I felt a strength I hadn't known I possessed. As the night ended, Mr. Abernathy gave me a curt nod of approval. You handled yourself well, Clara. The use of my first name, simple as it was, felt significant, a blurring of the lines. As the weeks went by, the engagements became more frequent, more varied. Some were business meetings where I was expected to take notes or offer simplistic, pre-approved insights. Others were purely social, demanding nothing more than my polished presence. Mr. Abernathy's demands weren't physical, but they were emotionally taxing. He required my constant attention when we were together, a readiness to perform, to be whoever he needed me to be at that moment. Sometimes, the allowance felt less like payment and more like compensation for a part of my soul. I sat in my apartment, no longer worried about rent, but about the person I was becoming. I had enjoyed the challenge, the successful performance, the ability to navigate his world, but deep down, I knew the truth. I was still trapped, just in a different kind of cage. And a part of me had liked the feeling of being Ms. Peterson more than I wanted to admit. He chuckled dryly. Indeed, if that's what helps you sleep at night. Silence stretched between us. I should have felt ashamed, but the feeling was complicated. A part of me had liked the control, the cleverness required. It was just a deal, I told myself, but it was changing me. I have another proposition for you, Clara, he said one evening, after a particularly demanding event. I glanced at him, my guard immediately up. What do you mean? He leaned back in his chair, observing me. You, re-wasted just being my occasional companion. You've proven adaptable, charming when necessary, and capable of navigating complex social situations. I know you find a certain satisfaction in it. He was right, which was unsettling. There are others in my circle, he continued, his voice low. Men who could use someone like you, for similar purposes. Appearances, information gathering, social maneuvering where a trusted, yet deniable associate is required. I stiffened. This felt like a different line entirely. You're joking. Not at all, he replied, watching my reaction closely. You said you were out of options, Clara. You don't have to be limited to just my needs. You could turn this into something highly lucrative, a necessary service. My breath hitched. This was different. This was not just a favor. It was... I stopped, searching for a word that didn't exist for what he was suggesting. Just what? His expression was unreadable. Just a temporary arrangement? Just a way to survive? I turned away, my mind reeling. I should have been repulsed, but a dangerous thought had already taken root. He was right. I had found a strange satisfaction in the performance, in being Ms. Peterson, in the control I could exert by playing the role perfectly. And now, the thought of doing it again, for others, of being needed for this unique skill, of making something substantial out of this bizarre situation, it no longer seemed impossible. It seemed like a perverse opportunity. "It's your choice, Clara," he said, standing up, signalling the end of our meeting. "You don't have to say yes. But if you do, I know 2 individuals right now who have particular needs you could fulfill, and they would compensate you very, very well." A chill ran through me. Not just 1, 2. My throat felt tight. It should have been an easy no, but it wasn't. "How much?" I whispered, the words escaping before I could stop them. His expression didn't change, but his eyes held a glimmer of something. "More than you've earned in a year at the diner, perhaps." I exhaled slowly, my pulse hammered in my ears. 1 night. 2 clients? A choice that could change everything, solidifying this new, unsettling path. I lifted my chin, meeting his gaze. "All right, Mr. Abernathy." He allowed himself a small, genuine smile. "Good. I'll make the introductions." The next evening, I stood in front of the mirror in my now well-appointed apartment, adjusting the simple but elegant dress. It was carefully chosen to be professional, yet approachable. My hands trembled slightly as I smoothed my hair. Why was I nervous? I had already made my choice. There was no turning back now. "You look ready." Mr. Abernathy's voice came from the doorway. He surveyed me, his gaze slow and approving. "They'll be impressed." I swallowed hard, exhaling through my nose. "Who are they? Acquaintances?" He smirked. "With specific needs. You give them what they're looking for tonight, Clara, and your future in Cedar Creek will be very comfortable." A discreet knock sounded at the door. My breath caught. They were here. Mr. Abernathy's smirk deepened. "Showtime, Miss Peterson." I walked towards the door, my heart pounding with a mixture of dread and anticipation. Each step felt weighted. My new, sensible heels tapped softly against the polished floor. The air felt charged. They followed closely as I opened the door and stepped aside, their presence filling the hallway. 2 men. Their faces were unreadable, their eyes dark and assessing, and they were here for my services. I led them into the sitting room, my pulse pounding. The anticipation in the air was thick. My heels clicked softly on the rug. They followed, their attention solely on me. I had agreed to this. I told myself I wanted the outcome, the financial security, but still, something twisted inside me, a flicker of unease, battling against a strange, unwelcome spark of excitement at the challenge ahead. The taller one, broad-shouldered, carrying himself with an air of quiet authority, was the first to engage. His approach wasn't physical, but his gaze was intense as he studied me. The other, leaner, with sharp, intelligent eyes, remained slightly behind, observant. "Mr. Abernathy speaks highly of your capabilities, Ms. Peterson," the first one murmured, his voice smooth, assessing. He gestured to the sofas. "Shall we begin? Let's discuss," the first man said, his eyes meeting mine directly. He didn't touch me, but his presence was commanding. He indicated for me to sit, taking a seat opposite me with the other man beside him. The air wasn't filled with intimacy, but with a palpable tension of negotiation and expectation. "Our needs are specific," the second man spoke for the first time, his voice quiet but precise. "Mr. Abernathy tells us you are resourceful, capable of handling delicate situations, of presenting information discreetly." There was no hesitation in my response. I had prepared for this. I wanted to give them exactly what they were waiting for, not my body, but my mind, my performance, my ability to adapt. I leaned forward slightly, adopting the professional, confident persona I had honed. "Mr. Abernathy has familiarized me with the nature of your requirements," I stated calmly. "I understand discretion is paramount, as is the ability to present complex information in a straightforward manner, or to gather it without attracting undue attention. I spoke clearly, my voice steady. A quiet sound, almost a sigh of approval, escaped the first man as he tilted his head, his gaze still locked on mine. "Just like that," he murmured, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. It was not attraction, but a recognition of skill, a familiar heat, a sense of exhilaration curled through me. It was the thrill of the performance, the challenge of convincing them of my worth in this unusual arena. Knees bent, posture controlled, I sat opposite them, my mind engaged, ready to perform. One hovered with anticipation in his gaze, waiting for my demonstration. I leaned in metaphorically, welcoming the challenge. I began to speak, outlining a hypothetical scenario Abernathy had briefed me on, demonstrating how I would handle a sensitive negotiation or extract information discreetly at a social event. My words were carefully chosen, my tone modulated. Above me, their attention was absolute. One absorbed my words, the other studied my demeanour, my composure under their scrutiny. Their breaths were even, but their stillness indicated intense focus. One's fingers brushed the arm of the sofa, a subtle gesture of his absorption. Their combined presence, the quiet sounds of their breathing, the tension winding tighter as I spoke. It sent a slow, deep warmth spreading through my stomach. It was the warmth of being effective, of meeting a challenging expectation. "That's it," one of them murmured, his voice heavy with satisfaction, not arousal. Just like that, the words sent another rush through me. They let me continue, letting me explore the intricacies of the scenario, letting me lose myself in demonstrating my capabilities. Then one of them shifted back slightly, clearing his throat as though regaining a more formal stance. "Come here," he said, gesturing towards the space between their seats. "Let's look at the details of the assignment." I settled onto the edge of the seat between them, my breath uneven from the intensity of the discussion, my mind thrumming with anticipation. The taller man had a briefcase open, laying out documents. His fingertips drew slow, deliberate circles on a map spread out on his lap, highlighting areas of interest. The other moved closer, his hand finding a small tablet, tilting the screen toward me, his gaze locking onto mine with quiet intensity. "We need you to navigate this landscape," the first murmured, his voice deep, laced with a different kind of anticipation now, that of a complex task unfolding. Then he began to brief me, his breath warm against my skin, as he leaned in to point out details on the map. A sharp gasp caught in my throat, not from pleasure, but from the sudden understanding of the complexity and potential danger of the task they were describing. My fingers curled against the edge of the briefcase, gripping it as each detail sent another ripple of apprehension and strategic thought through. "Gimme." The second man leaned in, his mouth close to my ear, explaining a linked set of contacts and protocols, his voice a low murmur. I absorbed it all, letting the intensity consume me, muffling any sound of surprise or fear escaping my throat. As the details built between us, they worked in perfect rhythm, one laying out the geographical and logistical challenges, the other providing the human and procedural elements. His fingers threaded through his own hair as he thought, his focus absolute. "She's grasping it," one of them murmured, his voice laced with admiration for my quick understanding, not physical appreciation. I should have felt overwhelmed. I should have hesitated. But I didn't. I wanted the challenge. I wanted to prove I could do it. And they could see it in my eyes, in my focused attention. They guided me effortlessly through the briefing, highlighting key points, shifting my focus as needed, as if they already knew how my mind worked. Now I was hunched over the map and the tablet, my body still tense, buzzing from the rapid intake of information. The second man, the one who had been observing and detailing protocols, moved behind me, his hand steady on the back of my chair, grounding me. "Are you ready to formulate a plan?" he asked, his voice low, knowing I barely had time to process everything. Before I could fully respond, he began outlining the first steps, a slow, measured pressure building in my mind as I started to see the intricate path ahead. My breath hitched, my fingers tightening against the edge of the table. As my mind adjusted to the complexity, they continued to brief me softly, their grip steadying me in place, their movements precise and deliberate, as if savouring each point they imparted. The first man moved in front of me, his fingers skimming the documents, coaxing my gaze upward to specific paragraphs. "Let me see you synthesize this," he murmured. I parted my lips, asking clarifying questions, the heat of the challenge against me, the steady rhythm of their explanation mixing with my own rapid thoughts. "Just like that," he whispered, his thumb brushing along the document, his fingers tangling into a cable connecting the tablet. They worked together, each guiding me, their rhythm sinking into mine. one keeping the overall objective clear, the other keeping the procedural details locked in my focus. A quiet sound of understanding escaped my throat as a complex piece of the puzzle clicked into place. The vibrations seemed to make the man in front of me nod subtly, his fingers flexing against the paper. Beside me, the second man shifted his pace, becoming more fluid, drawing another gasp from me as a brilliant, unexpected salute sparked deep within my core. "You love this, don't you?" one of them murmured, his voice teasing, knowing. I gave a soft sound of agreement, my focus absolute, the truth evident in every rapid thought, every question I posed. I did. I loved every second of this intricate, demanding challenge. They weren't finished. They shifted the materials, presenting a new layer, guiding me seamlessly into the next phase of the planning, showing me exactly where they needed me to apply my skills. Now I was sketching diagrams on a notepad, his hands firm on the edges, grounding me as I drew. His gaze met mine, a flicker of satisfaction playing across his lips, not from dominance, but from shared purpose in the task. "Let me see how much you grasp this," he murmured, his grip tightening just enough to hold the pad steady. A slow breath escaped my lips as I drew, a deep focus building inside me, the stretch of my mental capacity sending another shiver down my spine. His head was bent beside mine as he watched, a quiet sound slipping from his lips as I outlined a particularly clever solution. But the second man wasn't done. I felt his presence, first observing, testing my understanding, his fingers exploring the notes I'd made, waiting for my reaction to a subtle hint he'd added earlier. A sharp breath left me, anticipation, not fear, curling through my stomach. A flicker of momentary confusion met with an even deeper sense of wanting to understand, to master this. He leaned forward, his breath hot against my ear as he clarified the hint. "Take your time," he murmured. "We'll guide you through it." I exhaled, my mind adjusting, a slow, gradual acceptance as I pressed forward. The intellectual heat between us intensified, the moment stretching, minds working in perfect rhythm. "That's it," one of them murmured, not a groan, but a sound of intense concentration and approval. Just like that. I wasn't sure who spoke. I was too lost in it, too overwhelmed by the way they worked with me, their insights, their prompts, their methods keeping pace with mine. They worked in tandem, one analysing my approach, the other adding crucial details, their movements precise, controlled. The pressure built slowly, spreading through me in waves, my thoughts coming faster as the plans solidified tighter and tighter. "You're remarkable," one of them murmured, his voice filled with genuine respect. "Look at her," the other whispered, his fingers skimming my notes, making me nod in agreement, completely lost in it. I was. I couldn't hold back anymore. The intellectual tension inside me coiled to its peak. A final deep pull as all the pieces connected completely, a wave of understanding and strategic clarity crashing through my mind. And then, a sharp inhale from one of them, his fingers pressing into the notepad, his body leaning in as his thought process reached its conclusion. A low murmur of agreement from the other, his grip steadying the materials as he processed it. Following right after, the moment stretched, breathless and intense, before fading into a quiet hum of success. The room settled into silence. The only sound, the slowing of our breaths and the rustle of papers being gathered. In the end, I never expected to enjoy it. I never expected to want more of this strange, demanding work. But now, I can't stop thinking about the challenge, the strategy, the thrill of navigating their complex world. So tell me, was I wrong to accept? Or was this exactly what I needed to find a different kind of power, a different way to survive in Cedar Creek? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.